And it was through drawing that this little theater kid came back to me. And it kind of blew my mind that I had ever lost him. But I had. And this kind of goofy, authentic, feminine kid returned. And my instinct was, oh, I want to protect him. I just want to keep him to myself because he's been missing for 30 plus years of my life. Mm-hmm. And I want to hold on to him. And it was my husband who said, you should post this on Instagram.
Hey, welcome back to the Stories on Tape podcast. I'm your host, Josh Robinson, and today's storyteller I'm very excited for you to meet. He is an accomplished, let me make sure I get it, writer, composer, actor who is also helping us find or remember the little theater kid we have inside all of us. It is the one and only Ben Diskant. Ben, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Josh. Nice to be here.
I'm so excited to get to chat with you. I have loved getting to kind of follow along with your art journey and then learning more about you before this podcast. I'm very excited to dive into all of it. But before we do that, do you have a story that you can share with us to tell us a little bit about who Ben is if we have never met you before?
Yeah, I'm from New York City. I'm a New Yorker who's loves theater from the jump. We were always going to shows as a kid, and I think theater has always been a part of my life. My whole family's lawyers, so they have nothing to do with theater, but they all love it and support it. And I think being a theater kid has set me on the path for everything I've done. It's not all under one umbrella, but it's all about the love of theater.
Absolutely. And I want to get into your love of theater because we've already found out some things we have in common, but another thing that we have in common is a VHS is what I think kind of got us going in musical theater. Mine is the pro shot of Cats from way back in the day with the full cat suit and everything. Yours, Into the Woods. Yes?
Tell
me, what do you remember about watching that show, watching that VHS, and kind of how it then sparked your love?
Yeah, that VHS was everything to me. I mean, I'm not a youth. I'm 41 years old, and so we got a VHS copy from a friend who had taped it off of PBS that night or something, mm-hmm. And I just remember watching it over and over and over again, and just being captivated by everyone. And yes, Bernadette Peters was the most exciting thing. I think I loved her both as a witch and both when she became her gorgeous self. But there was something about the fairy tales, which was incredibly accessible. So just sucked you in, but then sometimes songs were just so, I was just so blown away by everything. And I didn't understand, I grew up in New York City, as I said, I had access to live theater, but I think I was watching this before even I went to see, my first Broadway show. And what a way to start with Sondheim. And I didn't understand that he had written other things because my parents weren't oh, we're now going to introduce you to Sweeney Todd, so it took me until I think, I remember I had mono or something, and in college, and I started listening to Company and Sunday in the Park with George and all the other ones that I didn't understand. He had written all of those, I think. But yeah, Into the Woods, just the message of that show. And I think it is a brilliant way to start kids out because it is so accessible, and yet it's obviously complex because it's the writers.
Right. Absolutely. Do you have a favorite line is there a line from Into the Woods that sticks out in your brain? Because I've got one.
I'm constantly quoting that show. The most obvious one that comes to mind is excited and scared. Yes. I think I say that or think it all the time, excited and scared. I don't know. Anything the witch says. Some of us don't like the way you've been telling it. That sticks out to me. What's yours?
Mine is nice is different than good. Yeah. And I have to remind myself of that all the time. And that is one that will stick with me, I think, forever.
Yeah. I feel that even with myself when I'm if I feel like I'm extending myself or I'm being nice to people, I'm like, I don't have to do that. I can actually just be good.
Yes.
Um,
Ooh, I love that,
yeah,
Ben.
yeah.
Yes. Um, I also now have to ask, what was your first show on Broadway you saw?
So I have an older brother who also loves theater, but he's a lawyer.
Okay.
He saw Patti LuPone in Anything Goes. And
Yes.
we went back, and she had already left the show. So I saw Leslie Uggams, uh, and I don't remember it at all. I don't, but I
Right.
remember the staircase, and I remember like some of the set. But because I listened to the cast album with Patti LuPone, like in my brain, I saw Patti LuPone. But that was my first
Abs-
show, and then I think my next one was Cats, which terrified me. And because they came into the audience and touched you, I was just like,
uh,
no, it didn't work
not.
for me. But then I saw um, Guys and Dolls. We were in the
Yes.
fourth row because it had been a huge snowstorm. My dad worked near Times Square, and back in the days, like you could really go to TKTS and get like really cheap tickets. I think they were probably $55 or less, and we got. No, I'm wrong. It wasn't TKTS. I'm making this up. It was a snowstorm, and Guys and Dolls was the biggest hit. And my dad went to the box office, and people had turned in their tickets because of the snowstorm. And so we got 4 tickets in the fourth row, and I got to see Nathan Lane, Faith Prince, Josie DeGuzman, and Peter Gallagher. And it was
Oh,
marvelous. That's my real first memory.
man, Ben, that is, see, this is what I'm excited to be living in New York City for is, 10, 15 years from now, be like, yeah, I saw insert names of people. I got to see Nicole Scherzinger in
Right.
Sunset Boulevard. Yes, I did. Like, I'm so excited for those kinds of things. And oh, that makes me smile. I love it. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it so much. Oh, that is fantastic. So tell me also a little bit about you went to college, you got an MFA in acting, and then what all have you done with that specifically? Where have we seen you on stage before? Because I know you've also then gone to like the writing side of things as well.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be an opera singer. So, because I sang at the Metropolitan Opera as a kid in New York City.
Okay.
Um,
Pin
and,
in that. I want to hear that story as
yeah.
well.
Um, and my voice was not working well at Northwestern. And I kind of fell into an acting class. We had to take an acting class. And I I loved acting. I loved that side of it and realized that I didn't need to sing necessarily. And then after Northwestern, I thought, oh, I should actually learn how to act. And so I went to an MFA program in San Diego at the Old Globe. And it was a 2-year program, and it was the best thing I could have done. I grew up. The program, I felt a lot of times at Northwestern like the teachers would give me the answer in some way, or I could just look to them. And so I
Hmm.
never had to think for myself ultimately. And in grad school, the teachers gave us options. And it was the first time where I had to make a decision based on options or tools that they had handed to us. And so at the Old Globe, I completely grew up, and I got to do so many things and had so many great opportunities with wonderful directors. And then I came to New York, and I got to do shows, and I did a lot of regional theater and worked with wonderful directors, and I did a few off-Broadway shows, um, and then I started pivoting into. I did a John Doyle musical, and I
Okay.
met some people who were trying to write musicals, and that was the first time I was like, "Oh, I would like to try and write something," and um, and so I started writing, and I kind of fell in love with that, and I felt like, as an actor, I was always looking to the director for the answer to some degree. Like, even though I had made a choice, and these are my choices, ultimately, I'm looking to the director to say, is this what you want? Is this how it fits into your story? And when I started writing, I just loved everything I was making. It wasn't like anyone was telling me, oh, you're good. I just loved what I was creating, and there was a sense of ownership over the stories I was telling, rather than how do I fit into your version of this story, director. And so when I started writing, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And when I realized that I wanted to write, my acting career wasn't going to support my writing career. So I needed to get a real job. And so my last show, I understudied on Broadway, Time in the Conways. And I got to go on, and it was like a wonderful way to end my acting career. And then I started working at a theatrical general management office, RCI Theatricals, which was just a wonderful next step. I learned about the industry in ways I would have never understood before. They always tell you it's a business, but when you actually work in a general management office, it is a business. It's like, this is we have to make money. Like, there is no other way around this. And so I was working in a theatrical general management office, and then I was studying at BMI and learning how to be a songwriter. And should I just keep going? I mean,
Please.
okay,
Yes.
so.
No, this is what I love. So it is just, I think growing up as a theater kid, we always, you see the actors and maybe the pit, you see the musicians, but there are so many roles in the world of theater that I think people just don't realize is an option. And so when I find people who have done these just not known as well jobs, I'm always like, tell me everything. I want to know so much more. And I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I think working in a theatrical general management office or a producing office or an advertising office, any of those like behind the scenes but important and part of the theater like development of a piece is totally worthwhile. You meet people that you wouldn't meet necessarily as an actor, and I now know all these people I would have never had access to, who are wonderful artists. They're not creators, but they are part of the theater industry. And so I was working at RCI Theatricals, and I was taking BMI classes and learning how to write, and then I started getting jobs as a writer for children's theater, and I had a Judy Moody and Stink show that was touring, and we were hired to write their next show. And then I had a TheaterWorks USA tour I had just been hired to write with a different writing partner, and we were supposed to have our reading in May 2020, and then, as we know, the pandemic happened, and both tours got canceled and everything stopped, and so my kind of children's theater writing career just fell apart, and I thought, well, maybe I'll turn these children's musicals into children's picture books. And I cannot tell you why, but I decided I was going to learn how to draw. And I went to YouTube and I found how to draw, and I started drawing. And when I tell you, I never even scribbled in the pages of my notebook. I never drew anything. But I started drawing, and the only thing that came out was this little theater kid who loved theater and was deeply opinionated and kind of bossy and entitled a little bit and a little bit bitchy, but just a little bit, and like loved Patti LuPone and Bernadette Peters and Audra McDonald and Betty Buckley and Alice Ripley and all these people, and I kind of just went with it. So any story that I had before, I kind of pushed to the side, and I just followed this little kid. And it took me a few weeks, maybe a few months, to realize that I wasn't just drawing somebody who looked like me, but I was drawing someone who was actually my essence, my authentic self. That, like, adults know that, like, as you grow older, you lose things along the way. You just, you do. You choose things, you lose things, right? Whatever. And it was through drawing that this little theater kid came back to me. And it kind of blew my mind that I had ever lost him. But I had. And this kind of goofy, authentic, feminine kid returned. And my instinct was, oh, I want to protect him. I just want to keep him to myself because he's been missing for 30 plus years of my life. Mm-hmm. And I want to hold on to him. And it was my husband who said, you should post this on Instagram. And I did. And I started getting messages from people. It started out primarily queer men mm-hmm. who would message me and say they felt seen. And what I didn't expect was them saying they felt seen made me feel seen. That the more I was authentically myself, other people were seeing who I was. And we were all creating this community of people who felt seen in a new way. And so it was kind of the gift of my life that, like, I followed this character because now this kid is back. And it's not like I was a different person, but I had lost a huge part of myself that I had just gotten rid of. And yeah.
Ben, first, goosebumps hearing you tell that story. I love getting to talk to people and hear their passions. That's been one of my favorite things about this podcast, is just hearing how people have found and become who they are in the present moment. Like, selfish question first. So I'm kind of in the space of, like, what do I want to do next with my life? And I've, like, got some different things that I know I enjoy doing, but how do I make that the thing that I also do to make myself some money? And you've kind of taken some turns here and there from things you thought you would do, and you're doing this instead. When was a moment that you, either with Little Theater Kid or the writing, or when was there, do you remember a moment where it clicked and you were like, yes, this is either the next step or this is what I'm going to do?
Oh, gosh. Well, I've had so many of those kinds of moments. I mean, the most recent time that this happened was I have been pursuing being a musical theater writer for a very long time, and it is very hard to do. It takes a lot of money and resources and talent and community and people supporting you. And I was trying to get this reading of a musical to happen, and it just kind of fell apart. And at the same time, I had posted a drawing for Gypsy, that the Audra McDonald, the revival last year, or 2024, whenever that was. Yeah, 2024. And Audra McDonald responded to it and reposted it and said something like, "This is why I do theater." And then I drew 2 kids dressed up as Wicked, and that also, like, got a huge response. And I thought, this is crazy. I have been for years trying to make a musical theater career happen. And it is taking so much effort and money and time, and I can't get anything off the ground. Meanwhile, I'm just doodling in my bedroom and making a huge impact in my life on like my small little community. And so it was an aha moment of, I love drawing. I am making people happy, like, immediately right now. Follow this. And it was at that moment when the Little Theater Kid was born. And that was in January of last year, really. And when that happened, I then reached out to Playbill and said, "Hey, who does your merch? I'm trying to figure out how to do this." And then someone at Playbill was like, "Well, actually, we're interested in collaborating with you." And and it just happened so quickly. And then once Playbill wanted to do a product line with me, I was like, well, now I have to really launch my business. And so I learned how to get an LLC, and I learned how to build a website, and I learned all this stuff. So I think like I think things become very clear if you actually stop and listen and look around. And I think I had been forcing something so hard, and it just wasn't happening. And when I relaxed and looked at my other options, it was like it was just painfully obvious. And the brilliant thing is that with the Little Theater Kid, it has given me access and opportunity to people I would have never met or been in touch with. And that kind of joyous energy of the Little Theater Kid, which is genuine and true to me, has only helped all my other writing. That the more I'm authentic, the more I'm actually following my voice and what I actually want to say and what I actually want to do. I think my writing has gotten better. And it's like, it's not a coincidence that like my first play was produced this past year after the Little Theater Kid launched. That like, I'm honing in on something true within me that is just the seed. Like I think I've just started.
Absolutely.
If that answers your question.
Yes. No, first I'm taking that to heart. I am gonna like take a breath and like survey my surroundings and really like see what's working and see like you said, what I'm just putting so much effort behind that isn't, no matter how hard I try and the support and everything, it's just like, maybe put that on the back burner for a second, maybe give that a little rest and go towards this thing and see if that then helps open doors and windows or whatever for the thing that I thought would work for a long time. So thank you for that. That was some very good, very helpful advice. It's nice to hear people who have been working at things for a long time have found ways to figure it out.
Yeah. And I also think it doesn't mean that it's gone forever. It's just like just a pause. And people ask like, why do musicals take so long to create? And it's like, well, one, we're not working on it every single day, but also like taking a breath, taking a whole year off from writing a musical allows you space and distance and clarity, and the emotion of what you thought was like critically important to the story allows you to step back and be like, oh, this song I was fighting for, we don't need it. And once we don't need that, now we can write something else. Or like, and I think like putting things that are being forced on the back burner for a moment is not always a bad thing.
Absolutely. Well, perfect segue, because I wanted to talk about The Weeknd. Congratulations. That's very exciting. What was it like getting to see your show performed and read by people? What was that feeling like?
It was really cool. I mean, I think it's all I've really ever wanted. I kept saying, I want to be in rehearsal. I want to be in the room. I want to be back there. I want to be collaborating with people. And that's what I got. I went up to Barrington Stage. We were the last show of their season, and we had 4 like wonderful actors who really helped shape this new play. I mean, I rewrote probably a third of the play in rehearsal, and it was a steep learning curve. I learned a lot about who I am in the rehearsal room and who I need to show up as next time too. And what I want to fight for and defend and ask for. Because they don't teach you that, and there's no real way to know until you actually are in the room. But it was thrilling. It was such a gift, and I can't wait to get to do it again. I mean, we all just want to be in rehearsal, I think. I think there are some people who love performing, but I think a lot of us love being in rehearsal and love getting into it and figuring out what the story is and how we're going to work together and the real like collaboration of finding a moment.
Yes, some of my favorite moments from being a theater kid are rehearsals, because one, that's where you get to be silly goofy and you're just like, oh, we're going to just try something and we'll just see if it works, and it might not. And that's the whole point of why we are here, is to figure out what works, what doesn't. Because once, if people who are listening or watching don't know, usually once a production makes it to the stage, you don't really make changes to it. Like, that is set, because then there's lighting and sound and props and all the other things that have to know where you're going to be and how it works. And so the rehearsal process can be stressful, obviously, because we're still working. This is still work, but it is so much fun, and it's so exciting to show up every day and like, okay, since last night I thought about this, this, and this. Let's try it, see what works, what doesn't. Can you also give us just a little synopsis of the show? What happens in the weekend?
Yeah, the weekend is a love story. I had seen Light in the Piazza at City Center Encore with Ruthie Ann Miles, and I've never written a love story. I've never had a desire to write a love story, and there was something about seeing that production of that musical where I left feeling elated and feeling, what is wrong with writing a love story? No one is like confused that it's a romantic love story. We all go along with it, and we all leave feeling open in a way. And that's what I wanted to write. I wanted to write a story that was romantic and bigger than myself, and yet not have it be a happy ending necessarily, in terms of like, oh, two people end up together and that is what a happy ending is. I wanted the happy ending to be all four of the characters are awakened, which is what I feel like happens in Light in the Piazza. I feel like that happens in Once. I feel like that happens in Bridges of Madison County, where all these characters don't end up together, but are awakened by love. And so that's what I set out to write, and that is what I wrote. It was about four people who go away for a weekend in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, and it takes place over 3 days, and all four of them enter the space stuck in a way in their lives and leave awakened and alive.
Ooh, that is perfect. I love that so much. Another thing, I got to see several shows last year since moving to New York, and so everyone does something similar, and then sometimes telling stories, people just have such creative ways of doing it. Do you have a favorite way either to write or to see a show on stage and the way they tell the story? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think for me, I love big sets. I really do. When I was a kid, Sunset Boulevard and Phantom of the Opera were some of my favorite shows. I loved the spectacle. As I have aged, I am less interested in the spectacle, and I am more interested in stories that are actor-driven and text-driven. And so I'm really responding to, there is a new kind of narration that's coming into a lot of these shows. The Inheritance a few years ago, but even last season, Liberation and Purpose, and there was another one, but all these shows that like just have unapologetic narration to the audience. We are not in a play. I mean, we are not actually seeing a real story. This is a play. We acknowledge that. And I am loving writing shows where it's all character and actor and textual driven, and we have a blank space, and we can see the bare bones of the theater, and we kind of build whatever world we're going to build with a limited amount of lighting. I don't need it to be like, hokey or junior theater, like we're all pulling stuff out of a trunk. That's not the vibe so much as intimate, I would say.
Yeah.
That's what's really exciting me right now. But I mean, I still love big Broadway musicals. I'm not just in my own writing. I'm not there yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to see the revival of Chess that's happening right now, and I've never seen a production of it, so I didn't really know what to expect. And it's my favorite thing to go into a show not knowing anything and just like being surprised, being on the roller coaster with the actors. And I do love when there's a narrator who breaks the fourth wall and truly like winks at us as the audience and like I know that you're there, and I know this is crazy, but this is what's happening right now. I think that's fun, and I know some people really don't like that, but I love it.
Yeah, no, a lot of people don't like it, but I really do, and I'm now rewriting a piece that did have narration, and I'm finding that I can actually cut most of it, which is really exciting. But when characters shift into song, I mean, a lot of times songs are, they're not narrating, but they are speaking, they are sharing some internal feeling, and oftentimes no one's there. I mean, who is Elphaba singing The Wizard and I to? She's singing it to herself, but she's sharing it with us. Like, come on this journey with me, essentially. And so musicals inherently have a narrative aspect to them with these songs, even if we're not literally in text turning to the audience and saying, "Hey guys, just so you know." Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay, I want to do a deeper dive. I know we've talked about the Little Theater Kid, but it has truly been one of my favorite things since finding it on Instagram and then seeing it on Playbill, and just, I think it is so cool, and it really does, as I didn't like become obsessed with theater like I am probably until high school, I would say, where I know I have friends who started, like, they had the Wicked, it feels like the Wicked soundtrack is what just skyrockets so many people, at least my generation, into just loving theater and discovering so much more. Tell me a little bit about some of the characters that you have created with this group, because there are several now.
Yes, and more to come, probably. Yeah, so I started with Charlie, who is my doppelganger, maybe, is that the right word? Yeah, the version of me. And Charlie is the boss. He's the director. He's in charge. He thinks he knows everything. He's ambitious. I think he saw Patti LuPone on Broadway and decided that everyone was now going to do theater with him, and that Patti LuPone is going to show up. You know, he's written to her, somehow she's going to come. Like, that's his kind of backstory. And then Arthur is his friend, and Arthur is shy but loves to dance. And so Arthur is very much into Fosse, and Arthur will be the choreographer of the group. And then their next friend was Cassidy, and Cassidy is, I'm talking about these little drugs like they're real people. Cassidy is a triple threat. So, you know, everybody needs to watch out, because she's like, she's it. She knows she's it. And she's probably like a Leah Michele kind of, or a Rachel Berry, I should say, not Leah.
Yes. Yes.
And then the next character was Isabel, and she's a conductor and maestra and composer. And I love her. I think there's like a magical aspect to her, because she's connected to music, and music is heightened. And there's something about her and her baton that feels like a magic wand to me. And the newest character is Sherry, and Sherry is the stage manager. And Sherry has an assistant, a production assistant, that's actually a duck named Sally. And then there's Teddy Jr., who's a bear. And Teddy Jr. came around because originally it was just Charlie and Teddy Jr. as my only characters. And that's because when I was younger, my brother and I would sing together. And my brother's name is Ted. And I used to have Charlie and Teddy Jr., you know, singing sideshow duets, or whatever my brother and I used to do, I had Teddy Jr. and Charlie doing. And so Teddy Jr. just was my brother, but as a silent stuffed bear. And then there are other stuffed animals. But yeah, those are my theater kids. But I want so many more. I want a costume designer. I want a lighting designer. I want dressers and other actors and audience members and reporters. And I want to be as inclusive as possible. And I've heard from people who are requesting certain aspects of inclusivity that I have not yet done. And I'm excited to do that too. Because it had started as something really for me and kind of my gay kid self. But I'm realizing that there are so many other theater adults who want to feel seen too. And so I like, the more inclusive I can be and still be authentic, I think, great, let's do it.
Ben, I'm so excited to watch it grow. I
Me too.
can't wait. And when you came out with the stage manager, I was like, ah, yes, we were talking. My husband's a stage manager. You have
Yeah.
one in your life as well, and so it just like it's like, ah, this is perfect. Yes, um, and you mentioned it a little bit, but do you have? Is there is you were also just did you go to Junior Theater Festival? I saw that you like created a piece of art for it. Were you there this week?
I just went for the first time, and it was like 7,000 theater kids
Uh huh.
coming together in this arena, and it was incredible. I was overwhelmed. True, as an introvert, I was overwhelmed. But I got to talk about the little theater kid and share my story, and I got to meet all these kids who, I mean, God, it was really inspiring. And I have to say that there was a moment in the middle of the weekend where I think I lost my way and I fell like into myself and feeling like, oh God, this is too overwhelming. And there were some musicals that I don't respond to like pop music on Broadway in theater. That feels like that's just not my calling. And
Hmm.
so I was hearing a lot of pop music, and I just felt like, oh, I don't know that I belong here. And then on the last morning I woke up and I heard a dress rehearsal for Jasmine Amy Rogers was there, and she was singing "Why We Tell the Story" from Once on This Island.
Mm.
She was singing it with all these kids, and I just started crying, and and I was like, oh, of course I belong here. Like, there are so many different aspects of musical theater, and everyone's going to respond to something different. I don't respond to pop music, but other kids do, and thank goodness it exists for them. I respond to this type of music. Wonderful. And so I kind of fell back in, and it was like, and I cried, and it like released whatever I was holding, and it was a pretty remarkable experience. And if there are theater parents out there listening, I suggest looking into it for your kids, um, or have your schools look into it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've never been either, but I think moving to New York, my algorithm is now obviously all theater. And I saw several people like this, like adults, they were like, this was my first time going, and I am so thankful that it exists because like you said, it gives these kids a place and it shows them that they are loved and they belong and they have a community that is there for them no matter what they like. Also, Jasmine Amy Rogers, I am so thankful that we have her because wow, she is a star, and I cannot wait to see like I saw Boop twice, and I'm so sad that that show ended because I think I'm so excited for the tour, and I hope that so many people get to see it because it is such a good show.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
She
so
she
so
was
good.
she was unbelievable. She has a voice where you're just not worried. She has a voice where you can just relax and be like, "Yep, it's just gonna happen," and you can just
Hmm.
enjoy yourself. That I mean, that happens a lot, but it also doesn't. And with her, it is like on another level of like, oh yeah, just have a good time. She's got it. She's got you
Yeah.
covered.
Speaking of everyone belonging and everyone have a part, I what I really resonated with on I think it was your website. You with your writing, you really focus on making sure women have roles and making sure that they are portrayed and seen. As someone who has three little sisters, and women have played a huge part in my life forever. One, I'm thankful that there are people like you who are making that a priority. Where does that come from for you?
Um, it's probably a bigger answer than I could even explain, but I think a lot of it comes from one, the little theater kid who wanted to work with these women. I think like as a kid, I didn't like Brian Stokes Mitchell was wonderful, undeniable. I didn't care. Like he wasn't someone. I didn't respond to him in the way
Hmm.
that Alice Ripley tore into me. There's something about uh, the Broadway divas that I responded to, um, that that is unparalleled, really, for me. And I think women in general are allowed to express emotion that men are not allowed to, and uh, whether 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 the women I'm writing are some version of a gay man, like I don't know, but I think a lot of it comes from I identified with the female characters in Broadway musicals without question. I identified with Norma Desmond. I identified with the Sideshow Girl twins. I identified with Linda Eder in Jekyll and Hyde. All these people before your time, but these are the women. I identified with them. I identified with Sutton Foster. I identified with Jane Eyre. I identified with, I never identified with the men.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought the men didn't have anything that I wanted to say. And I think women, just by being women, have more interesting stories to tell. They have hardships that men don't have. Or they're just different, I shouldn't say.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't write really straight male characters as much because I don't really have access to that. In some ways, straight men feel more foreign to me than women. And I am more interested in a woman in the middle of her life who makes a brave choice than anything else, really. I think I think all my stories center around people who have inadvertently trapped themselves in their lives and have no idea. And by the end of the story, they realize that they have trapped themselves and then have an opportunity to break free. And all my stories are that. Like, even if I don't mean to, that's what they are. And I have always been drawn to women in their 40s and 50s who decide to do something else. And going back to Light in the Piazza, Margaret decides to not go back to her husband, and she allows her daughter to do this thing that may seem crazy or it may seem the most brave thing, but it is an awakening for her. And that's the most interesting thing to me. Di in Next to Normal, she's captivating to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I write for these women because I'm most interested in them. I'm not trying to do a good thing or a bad thing. They are the most interesting to me. And I want to work with like Broadway divas. So I hope that gets to happen.
We're manifesting this right now.
Right.
It's going to happen. Okay, so for someone who I feel like my musical theater knowledge is not at the level it should be, and maybe we have some new musical theater listeners, could you give us a few like divas or soundtracks that you think we should listen to, know more about, so we can be on the Ben level of Broadway knowledge?
Well, I'll just go with the ones that I loved as a kid. How about that?
Perfect.
Sideshow, Alice Ripley, Emily Skinner. It is an incredible soundtrack. Those two women are extraordinary. The music is extraordinary. It's by Henry Krieger, who wrote Dreamgirls. Incredible songs. Just go listen to them sing. Because Alice Ripley can sing and belt, and yet there is an emotional connection to her voice where you feel the pain that is within her. Okay, so Sideshow. Oh God, what else do I listen to? I don't know, anything with Patti LuPone, anything with Betty Buckley, Bernadette Peters, Sunday in the Park with George. I mean, you have to listen to them. But like these are obvious ones. Kelly O'Hara, I think Light in the Piazza is a must. Light in the Piazza, Next to Normal, Sideshow.
Yes.
I think that's where... Oh, and Fun Home. You have to listen to Fun Home.
Yes.
Judy Kuhn in Fun Home. That's another one. So I go into Fun Home, and who do I identify with? Judy Kuhn. Why? I don't know. I'm not a middle-aged mother, but that's whose story I want to see more of.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw Judy Kuhn in The Baker's Wife off Broadway, and I was like, I want to know her story. She's fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm. And I've had that happen a couple times. I saw the tour of Pretty Woman in Chattanooga last year, and there was one of the characters was like a bellhop and a waiter. Like he kind of played several different roles, and I was like, I want to know his story. Like, yeah, these are great, but like, I think that's what I love about theater is you could someone like Ben could go see Baker's Wife and be like, you know what, I'm gonna write now. I'm gonna write this person's story, and it's so cool. It's what I love about theater is the way we can tell stories in a way that not necessarily theater or movies can. And then it's a little different every night because it's live every night. And so you don't ever get the same show exactly twice. And so getting to be in a theater and share that experience with, the few 100,000 people that are there is something I always kind of marvel at when I'm sitting there before the show starts or at intermission. I look around and how people are chatting about what they've seen and or just walking home even. If you are walking home, wait a few blocks before you share any negative critiques. FYI, LOL. And so it just, I love it so much. And I'm so glad that there are people like you, Ben, who are finding those stories that we can share and know more about. And maybe we don't hear as often, and I know that there are people that relate just like you do. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, and I feel like we need the stories of everyone, and I don't have access to everyone. I have access
Right.
to the people that I can tell, and so that's what I'm going to tell in the way that I tell it, and that is the only gift I can give to myself and to everyone else. And I think for me, the lesson of the little theater kid, again, is the more I can hone in on what I'm actually like, what actually makes me excited, what actually makes me like light up inside, the more I can do that, the better for everybody. And I even think, even with the little theater kid, like I was posting on Instagram. I was not sharing it for kids, really. I was sharing it for adults. I was sharing it for people who I think were like me, who also maybe perhaps forgot this, like what we kind of have always been. We've never lost this theater kid, but we get serious and we grow up, and there is this like wonder about theater and the shared experience and going in and being moved, genuinely moved, and by a story that's being told, and getting to feel something you've never felt before. And I think like we all enter theater for different reasons, but for me, I was afraid to feel certain things or didn't feel like I had permission to. And I think theater and art, but specifically musical theater, allows us to just be brave.
Yes. Ooh, I love that, Ben. That is a perfect way to describe it. Absolutely. A thought that just popped into my head. Will we ever see a player musical about the little theater kid? Is that in the works at all?
I mean, I hope. As I build these characters, I'm like, what is the story here? I think the first step is to write a picture book, and then I want to
Yes.
turn that into a series, and then maybe turn that into an animated series, and then maybe turn that into a musical. But yes, of course. I mean, these kids are dying to sing. They want to be stars. So yes, I would love to turn that into a musical, but I don't know what the story is yet. And
Sure.
I hear a lot of different things, and especially from parents, of like what they want the message of these stories to be, and I want to please people for sure. But again, I want to make sure I'm actually telling the story that I want to tell with these kids, because yes, I am writing for kids, but I really do think a lot of this is for adults, and I don't want to lose that. It doesn't mean that the humor has to be adult humor, but I do think that there is something longing about these kids that is adult, and it's not childlike. There is a wisdom. There is like yeah. I don't know. Yes, there will be a musical. I have not figured out what the story is yet.
Perfect. I can't wait. And speaking of our not speaking of, but thinking back to our younger selves, do you think your younger self would be surprised that this is what you're doing right now?
Yeah, probably. I mean, my younger self would be very happy, I think. Terrified, but very happy, excited and scared. Uh, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to remember as we get further away from our youth. I forget this. I forget really what I wanted, and I can pretend I know, but I don't. I think that little kid wanted to be a theater performer, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they just wanted to be seen and part of a community. When I was at the Met Opera, I was so entranced by the scenery, and so I kept saying I want to be a set designer, but I don't think I really wanted to be a set designer. I just was. I loved theater, so yeah. I think my little self would be very surprised, but very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. A good surprise. A
Yeah.
very good surprise. I love that. Another thing that I love hearing more about from people, like I said, I have three little sisters. What was it like? Just one older brother for you?
Yeah, one older brother.
What was that like? What was that dynamic like? Like you said, you both enjoyed theater, so I'm sure you got to connect over that. Is that something you still enjoy together when you can? How
Oh
was growing
yeah.
up for you guys? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up in New York City. We got to see shows. We would rush shows really early in the morning. I don't know why our
Yes.
parents let us do this, but we would be sitting on the pavement at like 6, 7 a.m. meeting adults, like people in their 40s and 50s. We were all just like there lining up to see Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah, we would sing together. I play the piano and he would sing, and um, yeah, we had I think our bond for theater is a very strong bond, and I mean, he's married and has two kids and is very busy, but yes, we still bond over theater, and we'll just randomly text each other quotes from different shows, um,
Yes.
when they are appropriate. Um, but no, he doesn't have as much time to see theater, so he's not as
Sure.
caught up. But I try to keep him engaged.
So you keep him in the know. You
Yeah,
keep him in
yeah.
the know. Have you seen anything recently that's like gotten you excited or that you've been talking about with other people? What's on the list recently?
No, which is a weird thing. Last season was so jam packed
Yes.
and so full, and I'm trying to think about this season. This is kind of a cheat, but Liberation,
Hmm.
which will probably be gone by the time this is shared.
Yes.
But Liberation was just exquisite and so brave and exciting to watch a story unfold in this way. Bess Wool blew my mind. The playwright just blew my mind. Um, but I'm excited for a lot. I'm excited for the strangers carrying a cake. I want to see that because it's a two-person musical. Like, I want to go support that. I want to see what that's like on Broadway. I'm excited for The Lost Boys. I've
Hmm.
heard incredible things. Um, but no, I don't have. I'm sure if you said something, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I saw that and I love it." But nothing's come to mind.
Yeah, no, Two Strangers is still very much on my list as well. I've loved the West End. I've listened to that soundtrack, and so Sam Tutty staying with it, and I'm so excited. And then Lost Boys, yeah, we're getting Shoshana Bean back on Broadway, very like, which is very exciting. She took that little break from Hell's Kitchen. I don't think she's done anything in between that I remember at least. So very excited to have her back as well. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, Ben, last question, and then if you have any stories that you had thought of that you wanted to share, but the question I'm asking everyone: why do you think storytelling is so important?
Yeah, storytelling is so important because I think good stories allow characters to change and grow, and I think storytelling through musicals or not through any medium allows for you as the viewer or reader or audience to recognize a character that you relate to and see that they can change and they can feel something and they can grow and they can become something braver than who they were, which then means that you can too. Or you can experience a bravery in a story that you didn't think possible for yourself, but now you're thinking about it. So I think storytelling unlocks something within ourselves that we may not even be aware of, but allows a character to join our world and maybe make us a little more brave as we go through our life. And I think storytelling is so important, and I hope it continues in schools. I hope it continues all over the country. I'm not worried about it in New York. It'll always be here, but we need the storytellers to exist, and that's all over the country. So yeah.
Absolutely. No, I agree 100%. And God, I just love asking that question. I have gotten answers that cross the spectrum, and it always relates to the person so well, I think, which is again just another great reason why telling stories is so important, is points of view. We all have a different one. We all see things slightly different or very differently. But when we can share stories and relate to each other, I think that's when it really just like gets to the heart of being human beings. And so I think it's just such a special thing.
Just to add on to that, I do think that like we are all so different, and we all have different stories, and I think the danger of at least my life that I had to undo was trying to be like other people, or trying to disappear into a crowd. And that the more we can truly figure out who we are and be authentic and not be afraid to be that, the better for all of us. And that's like obvious, of course, but so many schools teach us to be like X, Y, and Z, to get a job, to fit in, to be a part of this community. And yes, that's probably all true, but also bring yourself to whatever you're doing, because that's what we need. And that's not BS. That's real. That we actually need you. And that's not AI, and that's not blending into a crowd. We actually need the human individual with their unique point of view.
Absolutely. Yes. This has crossed my mind a couple times. I was a part of a children's improvisational theater troupe in college. And so we would do Aesop's fables and sing songs, and it was so much fun. But there was a story called Tyler Toad, and he was having a birthday party. And the moral of the story was, well, Tyler, if everyone was the same, life would be so boring. And I try to remind myself of that as often as I can, because if you put yourself out there and you show your true colors, other people see you and they say, it's not only okay, but it's like, I can be that and more. Mm-hmm. And I think it's always so important to remind myself of that, especially like you said, growing up now and forgetting bits and pieces to move on. That is something that I try to hold true to myself and remind myself as often as I can. Mm-hmm. Well, Ben, this has been lovely, and I'm so thankful for you and the stories that you're sharing. If we want to follow along with your stories and everything that you're doing, how do we do that? Where can we go?
Oh, probably Instagram is the best way. Just my name, Ben Diskant, or The Little Theater Kid. And that's perfect. Theater with an R-E, because
of course
we take theater very seriously.
Of course. And make sure you're following Stories on Tape on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and we'll have behind the scenes and sneak peeks and all the things there as well. Well, Ben, this has been absolutely fantastic. I'm so thankful, and thank you for sharing your stories today.
Thank you for having me.